It's wearing on me, man. I got to be honest. I thought I could do it without any issue, without any complaints. I mean, look, we're in a business where if we can bitch and moan about something, it might drive an entire program. It might give us a week as far as content is concerned. And I get so, like we all do, we get so used to and accustomed to a habit, a practice, that when it gets disrupted, well, we completely go off our loop and we don't know what we're doing. And next thing you know, it's chaos. And when you add the element of a pandemic and the fact that you're stuck at home, well, it's going to make it worse. It's going to exasperate it. That's where I'm at right now with what used to be my favorite television show on TV, and not meaning the best television show. I can separate the two. It's one that I looked forward to every single week when it was on, and it's on now, and it's taken a sharp turn, a very sharp turn away from the foundation on what it we built on, and that, of course, is Westworld. And I got around to it yesterday. I couldn't watch it through in its entirety on Sunday. But the bigger picture is now waiting and sitting there and having to wait another week. And I can't just burn through it and then post on Twitter, well, I watched all 10 episodes of Ozark, and let me tell you, episode 4, or this new show that I really suggest you watch it. If you're a fan of Black Mirror, if you're a fan of Stranger Things, then check this show out, Tales from the Loop. It's a fantastic television show that's unique and different. But the concept now of just having to wait. I mean, look, we're about to talk about an NFL player who is now the highest paid running back in the history of the league, and Christian McCaffrey, essential personnel in Florida, the 1,000 to 1, like minus 1,000 odds that Florida would be the state to reopen everything first. It's just this small little element of the pandemic that gets me now, where if you're not binging, if you're not just sitting down and watching hours straight of a television show that's either on Netflix or something you can watch in the past, then you're screwed if that show is just not what it used to be. It's like what happened with Game of Thrones. I'm calling it now. Oh, we need audio.
All 50 states and MLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030. We're going on a trip,
What's he doing? What's he doing? Angela. Boy, this is insane here. Well, it streams on, and the show's on. The dog is doing something upstairs. I don't know. It's chaos, man. Absolute chaos. I wonder if I should start my stream at 12 after, as opposed to even 6. Well, I don't know. I don't start it anymore at the top of the hour, because people come in and they hear commercials and they're out. That first 3 minutes, I guess it's on me. If I'm not grabbing them in those 3 minutes, then it's on me, right?
Yeah.
See?
Maybe they just suffer through the first 3 minutes.
Well, then it's like,
maybe they're dropping a deuce in those first 3 minutes, and
then they come back.
And then they come in. We don't know.
Well, it's the 6 to, or right, it's 06 to 09, where you finally get on, and you have those 3 minutes.
To just know more. If you're worried that you may be experiencing symptoms,
go to
ro.co/coronavirus to start your free assessment today. That's ro.co/coronavirus. At Fidelity, we understand priorities can change, so when we partner with a dedicated advisor from Fidelity Wealth Management, we will help you develop a personalized wealth strategy, one that can be flexible enough to evolve as your needs change. Plus, they can offer investing strategies designed to reduce the impact of taxes, all while making sure you understand what you own and why.
Oh man, that's all right. So, do you have that cut?
Which one?
From Kercheval.
Oh no, it's still trying to.
Oh, okay.
Where he said it.
Yeah, no worries. I was just curious.
From reviews on the latest vehicles to vintage rides to tips on keeping your family safe on the road, AutomotiveMap.com has something for you. If you love cars, trucks, and SUVs, and the amazing technology hitting your favorite showroom, check out the brand new AutomotiveMap.com. Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Shander.
Live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Shander Show. You can follow along, tweet at us at Shander Show, at Ron Culver. That's 2 N's as well. And I'm going to need your help, Ron. I have to get all this out with Christian McCaffrey first and foremost, so nobody accuses us of not talking sports or not talking enough sports. But I have something that happened to me, and it's a couple of details are important here. It's not just something on the surface that I can say, oh, well, look, it happens to everybody. I've been trying to contact someone specifically, right? Actually, somebody who can help us in picking up and carrying this program in an area that would best serve both us and the local area as well. So this is somebody that's not just a friend I've been trying to contact for 10 years or, somebody that owes me money that I've been trying to hit up. And I've noticed a couple of times interaction on social media, yet no response at all to my email. So I just keep that in the back of your mind, okay? Because I need your help here. I don't know how to proceed. And I figure, well, I might as well at least use the platform. Others can weigh in on this. I'll get to specifics, I promise. But I just wanted you at least to keep that in the back of your head. Is that all right? Back burner, if you will. All right. So let's look at this. Christian McCaffrey, now, highest paid running back. I realized, by the way, that I asked you to help me out and find a cut and then asked you a question while you were finding that cut. So just to break down the fourth wall here on live radio. Christian McCaffrey is now, as he secured the bag, the highest paid running back ever.
Yep.
So,
So.
yes, absolutely right. Right, absolutely. No argument. Like, I don't think that there is anybody that even making the argument, and I know you guys were talking about this earlier this morning, it's been a pretty big reactionary point to it. Not to say that it's diluted or watered down. It's real. It makes sense. Just because 99% of the people think something doesn't always mean it's wrong. But you can separate the two things, which is the Carolina Panthers had to pay Christian McCaffrey, which means they had to max him out, which means they had to make him the highest paid running back ever. With separating that with the like a completely different, separate notion, which is Christian McCaffrey ain't winning your football games. Not alone. Not alone. A necessary component, sure. And look, the anomaly, every now and again, you get something that just sticks out and you're like, whoa, why can't everything else work like that? And then you're told, well, because it's an anomaly, young man, young woman, it's an anomaly. Christian McCaffrey, you can't base a team and build it like the Titans did, pardon me. You can't look at what the Titans did last year and say, oh, look, Derrick Henry. I mean, come on, he was able to win a couple of games. You cannot rely consistently on that and win football games consistently as Christian McCaffrey, the only guy there that is able to move the football, the only guy there that you can routinely throw the football to, that you can trust can move the chains. If you're only relying on Christian McCaffrey, or if your main vehicle, maybe that's even a better way to put it, if your main vehicle to win football games is Christian McCaffrey, you're not going to win many games.
No, in fact, I would say that the Panthers saved money and got a bargain.
Well, they set the market.
Well, I don't know, but they got a bargain out of it. Because I'll ask you this question, Eitan. A 1,000-yard running back, how much would you pay for him?
I pay more than the going rate. Like I'd lock that person in. I mean, right?
At least around 8 to 10. Right?
Well, yeah. Let's see. I mean, McCaffrey's making 16 million per season. So let's put that in perspective. So I pay $12 million for a 1,000-yard rush.
Just for a 1,000-yard running back who may catch balls every once in a while, but his main thing is running.
Yeah, I pay it down. Yeah.
Now, I'll take it a step further. How much would you pay a 1,000-yard receiver?
I'd pay that person probably closer to 17, 18 million. I mean, I could probably, if depending on who it is, I could probably justify going up a little more. You know, maybe like look, 20 million, you're talking quarterback money, but I still think you could do that.
But in total, if you were to have those two players, right? If you have those two players in total, what you just told me, you're spending about $27 million.
Correct.
Two players.
Correct.
So that's why I'm saying it's a bargain, because you got that in one.
Yeah, I think that actually
Christian McCaffrey was he had a record season last year, but just the fact that the Panthers couldn't do anything anywhere else in the field.
well that's the okay.
He ran for 1,000 yards, caught for 1,000 yards. Was the front runner MVP until Lamar Jackson said, here, hold my beer, Christian.
Right.
And just exploded in front of all of our eyes. I mean, none of us saw it coming at all. I would say Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he's probably high up there being a sure shot at being an MVP front runner this year.
Yeah, I think if you look at the need though to still fill that slot, if you look at the need, right, because I get what you're saying, which is, hey, you've basically combined both positions into one. You've basically combined now the 1,000, but you still need other people.
Oh, you still need
right.
Sure.
And that's
you mean you don't have to go out there and get someone like you go out there and find a slot receiver for league minimum. League minimum.
Yeah, you're
more than likely going to get the ball. I mean, listen. I mean, Christian McCaffrey lined up in the slot more than any running back last season.
Well, yes, but I think though, doesn't that go back to the point where you're relying on him too much? Oh
yeah, you're gonna run him into the
exactly. And if you don't have a quarterback, and look, at this point, you actually might need a mobile quarterback as well, right?
Well, that's I think where Teddy Bridgewater steps in. I don't know how much ability he still has left in him, but he's somewhat mobile.
Yeah.
I'm still afraid of that leg.
I am too. I still think, though, essential personnel, we'll get to essential businesses in a minute here. I still think that essential personnel, you are building a team. Like the idea is you need to walk the line, right? You need to walk the line of the point you're making, which is you have to have a guy right now like Christian McCaffrey, and you can actually benefit from combining the need of a super receiver and a super back into one human being, with also, and this is not separate, this is competing, also that you have the ability to add, right? You have the ability to not rely so much on Christian McCaffrey. And I don't know, like when I hear league minimum, man, that.
Listen, what I'm saying is you've saved money. Say your payroll, say your target payroll is still about that 27 million mark, right?
Right.
Now you have 10 million more to play with on extra players. So maybe you're throwing 2 million at this guy, maybe you're throwing 4 million at this guy. Maybe you throw 10 million at somebody else, but you have that money to play with. Plus, you have a huge big weapon who can cover two positions effectively.
Correct. Yes. Man, it's a very tough issue right here. And I don't know if the Panthers right now are going to be fully equipped to get around it, or if they're going to have to rely so much on Christian McCaffrey, like in the time being, right? It's not going to happen right away. I don't know if they're going to be able to. A couple of the moves that they've made don't really indicate that Matt Rule and company are ready to go right now, but a couple do. So it is a little bit confusing to kind of figure out their methodology, but at the same time, I just don't think that 1 year is enough, right? This is clearly a long play. You're locking up McCaffrey for the next couple of years. At the same time, you're giving yourself, right, because the market will reset at one point, you're giving yourself the idea, or at least the room, to beef up your team so you're not relying on McCaffrey over that stretch. But then I go back like dog chasing its tail, where this year, just like last year, you're probably going to over rely on him. And look,
Yeah.
right? And wouldn't the tendency be also to over rely on him? I mean, think about it, right? If you're playing, I don't know, just use it as an example.
Use my scenario. Use your running back and your number one wide receiver basically at this point. So it almost looks like almost feels like you're gonna use him on every play.
Yes, that's
And that's gonna age you very quickly.
correct. And I don't know. Look, I've seen it. We've all seen it here. I don't think that we have any right. That's the thing. We've seen it where you have a gadget, you have a toy, you have something nice and shiny, and the indication or the inclination part of me is to keep going back and back, right? Oh, look, let's just do it. Let's just keep using, take advantage of that, especially if you have a mismatch, something that you can exploit with McCaffrey, right? Like, why wouldn't you keep going back to him if you have a linebacker on him, right? Like, why wouldn't you continue? It's almost like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy here, right? Where you would actually need to continue to continue to use him just to stay in games. Look, you're down by 14 points. You're down by 20 points in the third quarter, end of the third, start of the fourth quarter. He's still going to be used. He's still going to be utilized. This isn't like a normal running back. That's where I think you're always going to have in front of you this just acceptance, I think, or this push by coaches. Doesn't matter if it's Matt Rule, Ron Rivera, anybody, he's going to get used. And nobody in their right mind, at least any offensive-minded coach, is going to say, hey, you know what, let's lay off that guy. Let's lay off that linebacker, next play. Let's lay off the guy that Christian McCaffrey is just killing right now on routes. And let's give somebody else a shot here. This isn't T-ball. This isn't where everybody gets in that bat. Especially if big money is on the line, jobs on the line, things like that. You're going to use this guy. You're working a new quarterback in, you're working receivers, everything. McCaffrey is there. And to Ron's point, you're never not going to have him there as an opportunity to either throw or hand the ball off to. That's a pretty big issue that I don't think the Carolina Panthers can get around. And I don't necessarily think that it's all negative, right? Because you definitely still need him there.
And you lock him into that contract. He's only 23. So you lock him in. What's 30 is the magic number when running backs start to fade away or demise, or you don't look at 30-year-old running backs being in this league. So he's 23. Yeah, you lock him in during his prime. So hopefully you do get the best amount of yardage out of him. I just hope they don't run him into the ground this first season.
But aren't they? Like, that isn't that it? Like, I don't.
You have a feeling they're going to. I'm not saying. Hopefully the Panthers are smart enough not to.
Right.
But you never know. You have a weapon like that. You're paying them big money. Someone that you, in the back of your mind, you're simply like, wow, we can hand it off. Or all of a sudden, I'm going to assume Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the starter.
Right.
If Teddy Bridgewater sees that, it's a linebacker matching up against Christian McCaffrey McCaffrey's getting the ball. Because that's a mismatch
every single time.
It doesn't matter which linebacker you throw at him.
Right.
Christian McCaffrey's going to get the ball. So.
Every single time. And you know what? There's no way around that, because if you're trying, look, it might be the difference between 7-9, 8-8. It might be the difference between out of the playoffs and a wild card game. Whereas McCaffrey alone is not going to win you all these games. You're still going to have defense show up. You're still going to have a quarterback make a lot of throws. Like, even Tannehill had to make some throws at times, and when he couldn't, you saw they were out. But it's not like McCaffrey's not going to be part of this thing. I think people hear, well, you can't win games with McCaffrey, and they think, well, hold on a second. It's not like you have to ignore him. No. He's going to get run into the ground this year. He's going to earn all that money. But I just don't know where they're going to be in 2 or 3 years.
What I'm picturing right now is a political cartoon of Christian McCaffrey carrying the Panthers logo on top of his back. That's what I'm picturing right now. If you're a Carolina Panthers fan, that's your future.
Did you see?
Someone go get a tattoo of it right now.
Is there a way that we could put McCaffrey in that picture that's gone viral now of the president standing on the lawn while that kid is mowing it? Have you seen this?
No, I've not seen
All right.
that.
So we come back. We'll talk a little bit about essential personnel, but Ron is going to do some research here and check this picture out. There's got to be a way that we can add Christian McCaffrey into this now. You mentioned political cartoons, so it got me thinking of this viral pic. At Shander Show is how you get me live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Shander Show. It's the second level.
This is Straight Heat.
Went on the All the Smoke podcast and decided to tell why he left Oklahoma City. In OKC, I played with a lot of athletes. I didn't play with a lot of skilled guys, not like shooters, ball handlers. I was like, I need change. And this was before the season even started. I was tired of having to be the only guy that can make threes, make jump shots, and consistently win. This isn't, as much as he meant this as a put down to Russ and Ibaka and all the guys on that team, this is a put down on himself. He wasn't good enough to be the man, and he just told you so.
Straight Heat with Patrick Creighton. Weekdays from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. Eastern on SB Nation Radio. SB Nation Radio.
Hey everybody, RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's BloggingTheBoys.com, your home for the best Dallas Cowboys coverage on the web. And did you know that we have a podcast feed? The Blogging the Boys podcast feed has daily, that's right, daily episodes breaking down the latest and greatest in the world of America's team. We have multiple shows, multiple analysts, including a Super Bowl winner, two-time Super Bowl champion Tony Casillas is part of our rotation, and we want to make sure you are as well. We're available on Apple, Spotify.
I thought these guys are
So don't miss out.
persona non grata with us. Yeah.
Not entirely yet.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's going that route. I don't know how much longer. There is like an agreement that we're still tied in with them for a little bit longer.
Right.
But I don't know how much longer.
Okay.
Or maybe we can push back. That's why, we changed our show name from SB Nation AM to Wake Up Call.
Yes. And
You'll slowly start to see and hear a lot of hosts, we're stopping to say SB Nation.
yeah, that's what.
This is on SB Nation Radio.
Yep.
But it's still who we are. It's still a big part of how people will find us over the last 3 years. So we got to
Sure.
keep up some of it.
Sure. No, I remember getting an email from Craig, so that's why I don't even say it anymore. The problem that I have, though, is I don't want to say it, but then I have to tell people how to listen.
Right. You still got to direct them to SBNationRadio.com.
And the app, right. Yeah,
And the app.
I know.
Hey, pick it up, man. We want you to hear us. Just don't say the name.
Exactly.
We're all going to go around, talking like SB Nation Radio, like Voldemort.
Has something for you.
It is nuts.
Cars, trucks, and SUVs. And the amazing technology hitting your favorite showroom. Check out the brand new AutomotiveMap.com. On SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, with way more than the scores. Here's 8-time Shander.
At Shander Show, of course, you can follow along, watch the show on Twitch, twitch.tv/Shander Show. And the people who have been watching, Mr. Fizz Esquire on Twitch, multitasking at its finest. There were a couple of issues here on my, not technical, of course, just my issues, things I brought upon myself, right? We've been amazing here at this house at keeping the outside world out. Nobody is in this house outside of course, immediate family, people we can account for, my soon-to-be in-laws and soon-to-be brother and sister-in-law and their 2 little ones. So the 8 of us are all in 3 different households. Nobody's coming in any of the houses. Nobody's going anywhere. And everybody is accounted for. So today, of course, and I guess this is basically the micro of my life, which is, of course, it wouldn't happen last week when I wasn't doing anything at all and was basically off in the middle of being quarantined, to now where the radio show is on live, trying to put this product out here as best as we possibly can. And here I am. I've got people outside mowing the lawn. Dog walker wasn't supposed to come. She's coming today. I had somebody, we need to put a generator in case, things go down. Almost lost power yesterday. So I don't want to lose power again. I have to go off the air. And it was a perfect storm, all three at once. And of course, I'm down here doing the show. And the only person upstairs to handle all of this is my fiance. So she's going nuts at me, rightfully so. I've invited the entire world over in a span of about 20 minutes. And I actually thought with all of that happening, it wasn't too obvious that my brain was kind of split. And I actually felt like I got through that McCaffrey conversation okay. Like it wasn't a complete train wreck, at least in my mind. I'll have to go back and listen to the audio. But think about this, man. For a month and a half, we haven't had anybody in the house. I had to make this guy put on booties today to come into the house. Not those lace shorts you brought up yesterday, Ron, but booties. Now, when's the last time you put on booties? Painting a house? Something like that, right? It wouldn't be anything bigger. Maybe. I don't know. It reminds me of the scene from The Departed at the end where Wahlberg. No spoilers? I'm sorry. Long enough to spoil. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that.
If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor, get your head checked.
Man, I brought in some chaos today. This is going to be a tough out for me once this show's over. I'm going to try and stay down here as much as possible today. It's like when you get in trouble at school and you have to go home, and getting in trouble at home is much worse than whatever happened to you at school, and you're just hanging out, right? I've got practice late today. I might do some homework. It's like 7 o'clock at night. Your mom is, where the hell are you? I do not want to go back upstairs and deal with that craziness that I invited into my life. My goodness. Essential personnel. All right, so let me ask you real quick out there, Ron as well, at Shander Show, live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Shander Show. If I were to just throw out let's do this first, because I mentioned this earlier. So I've been trying to get in touch with somebody, and this is essential personnel in my life when it comes to the radio show. He actually can help us. He's in a position locally in radio that can help us. And I've been trying to get in touch with him, even to pick up the show. I mean, there's some things that could work here, right? So this is not somebody that I could just blast and be like, hey, you fill in a blank. I've been trying to reach you. Somebody that I, A, respect, and B, like, and C, don't want to ruin that professional relationship. So I've reached out a couple of times knowing this show would launch yesterday. Nothing back. I've noticed that on a couple of different social media platforms, Ron, this person has responded to those exact posts, which are, hey, new show's coming. Here's how you listen, fill in the blank, and everything else that comes with it. What do I do here? I don't know what. Part of me wants to send another email and be like, hey, man, I saw you responding on Facebook. I saw you responding here, and follow up like that. But is that a JO move, and does that risk the like, oh, this guy's calling me out for not texting him back like some 13-year-old in a relationship?
So you had to throw that last part in there. I'd have said, like, no. I mean,
well, see,
I'd have said reach out until you said, called yourself a 13-year-old, like a Jones 13-year-old in a relationship.
But doesn't it sound a little petty if I respond on an email and say, hey, man, by the way, any news, any update? Like, I feel it would hurt my case if I followed up and said, hey, any update?
I've learned this over many rooms now. It never hurts to follow up with someone.
Okay.
It'll never make you look bad to follow up with anybody.
What if this would be the sixth follow-up in a span of 3 weeks? Like, well, I'm on that type of ratio.
Keep this relationship going. I mean, or maybe just get to him. He doesn't want.
Yeah.
Doesn't want anything to do.
That's kind of where I'm at right now. Is.
But how did we respond to all the social media postings about the new show? Was he just liking it? Just giving a thumbs up?
No, there was a congratulations, Eitan. Super happy for you.
Okay.
It was one of those. So it wasn't even just a like. The guy took the time to write out a response. Yes. Congratulations. Exactly. Happy for you. Stuff like that. I mean, it makes me think that maybe he changed his email or he's muted my emails. And just saw that. Like maybe he doesn't. Maybe he didn't even know because he muted me.
Is it a business email? Is it going straight to his spam? Maybe
No,
he's not receiving
we've-
it. Or maybe now I'm giving him an out to why he hasn't responded.
No, here's the reason why: is we have already had multiple communications on these emails.
Call him.
I don't know, man.
I think that's the next step. Call him.
All right, I have something.
Tomorrow start. His kids today. Kids today don't know how to just pick up the phone and call people.
Well, I don't think if he's not going to answer an email, he sure as hell's not going to answer a phone call, right?
Well, you'll get a quicker reaction, a quicker answer.
Yeah, I'll get a quicker send to voicemail, and I'll know exactly. It didn't even ring. What the hell's going on? Essential personnel next. Trying to get him to carry the show. Oh, I don't think it's going to happen.
Kick off the season right with fresh batteries for your lawn gear. For a limited time, purchase any.
Oh, did you see that video of that pic, by the way?
$10 gift card after.
Well, there's a bunch of them.
Okay, hold on. Let me find it.
You're talking about the kid mowing the lawn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I saw it. Kids in a red shirt matching Trump's red tie.
No. So hold on.
Is there a specific one I'm supposed to see?
Yes, I'm saving it for you now.
The communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing,
But I just typed in Trump lawnmower, and you should see the amount of pictures that popped up.
No, this is, well, yes, I'm sure this might be one of them. So I'm just going to make sure we're talking about the same one.
Every time, no exceptions, no excuses, exists for times like right now. We understand that hardships may arise, and we're prepared to help. If you currently work with us and need assistance with your mortgage, contact us 24/7 at rocketmortgage.com. As we all think about ways to save money, let me remind you that mortgage rates are near
No
historic
plan
lows.
B for another
If you
Olympic
think right now is the
postponement.
right time to refinance your mortgage. Our home loan experts are available to help you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at rocketmortgage.com. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org. Number 3030. You're going on a trip, but where are you going to stay? And how much will it cost?
Well, yeah, that's the one I see.
Okay.
But yours doesn't have words on it either.
No, mine is just open.
It's just fill in the blank.
Right.
wherever you
Like
want to put
caption
that.
this.
Like somebody has theirs is better hurry up before I drop a bomb on you, fool.
Right.
That's a dumb one. But
I'm sure there are, yeah.
BestHotelRates.com. It's in the name. BestHotelRates.com. The American spirit is alive and well. And underscore the word spirit because at a time when we could all use a little good news, this story will do the trick. The company is called Surf City Steelworks out of Huntington Beach, California. And as their name implies, Surf City creates unique, amazing craft bourbon, vodka, gin, and rum. And to say their business was booming would be an understatement. Then came the pandemic. Hospitals and first responders were desperate for hand sanitizers. Without giving it a second thought, Surf City converted a massive still from creating craft bourbon to creating hundreds of gallons of FDA-approved hand sanitizer for first responders, hospitals, and others. If you live in California and you love craft bourbon, vodka, gin, or rum, and you want to support a great American company,
Do you have both of those guys' numbers for the next hour? If not, I'll send them to you. Okay, cool. Just making sure.
You can also
I also have that Ben Kirchhoff.
Yes. Yeah, we can play that here for sure.
Steelworks.com. Cheers. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Shander.
Not even getting text responded to at this point. I have to stay down. I might not leave the basement until tomorrow. Might have to just live stream me for 24 hours down here stuck. The whole entire house was quarantined, sealed off, and violated by me, of course. I'm the idiot in the household. And I know that, at least. So I feel like I'm somewhat prepared for marriage, right? I'm going to look to you, man, as the only person on the show that can speak from experience on a lot of things relationship-wise. Because
I've got some experience
Yeah,
in that area.
look,
I still don't know what I'm doing.
well, no, but you have enough time to accrue data, right?
yes.
That's the biggest thing. That's what this whole thing is about right now. Testing, positives, false negatives, surge, masks, everything PPE, everything you hear. It's all about accruing data. Everything that you see, what type of medication works, what doesn't, who gets sick, who doesn't, what should we do, social distancing, everything takes time. Nothing is just going to be, oh, well, look, we have a solution here without the data. So I know going into this, and I know that once this becomes an official marriage, that you may have years and years data just compiled into this big stack. I still need to go through it, right?
You do.
I still need to accrue my own data.
It's still, well, because each wife is different.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's what makes them your wife. I mean, if they were all the same, we would probably never get married.
No, exactly right. All right, so a couple of things we need to do here. One, you've now seen the picture that I mentioned with Trump on the lawn, the specific one, and the
Yes.
young boy who is mowing the lawn. And the reason why I wanted that one specifically is because Trump is, for whatever, I don't know what he's doing, but he's yelling, or at least he's talking loudly at the young man.
He's not being rude.
He's not being rude, right?
I'm not going to be an apologist for anything.
Sure,
he's done.
sure.
Yeah.
But is he just talking loud because the lawnmower is going and he's like, great job, young man?
Probably.
Okay.
I guess reading up on the story a little bit, I'm not sure this kid needs to, parents need to do a little bit more creative writing with him, or do something more with his creativity. But it was a dream of his to mow the White House lawn.
A dream of his.
Yeah, so Trump was making dreams come true.
Interesting. I didn't realize that.
Well, it was his wish.
His wish. Now, this isn't like,
Wish, dream, yeah, same thing.
okay, but this isn't like, a Make-A-Wish thing, right? Where we're,
I hope not.
okay, good. Well, I just wanted to make sure because, look, I don't care who the president is or anything like that. I get that people grow up with a sense of pride and nationalism and with this country. So if somebody has been raised by their parents, and again, it's going to be, you can go back with Obama, Bush, FDR. I'm sure there was somebody back when when William Taft was the president. Do you think that somebody was raised as that was their dream? Do you think that there was a 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid that thought to themselves, it's a wish, maybe even a dream of mine to mow Mr. Taft's lawn? Probably, right?
I mean, maybe.
Well, just
Taft wasn't getting out there doing it.
it's absolutely not. Absolutely not.
How to pick that president out of all of them.
Well, because he was the one.
He wasn't.
That's
doing
it.
anything.
They cherry picked it right from the top. So is there a way,
The largest, fattest president we ever had.
the one that sure as hell was not mowing his own lawn? Absolutely right. We know that we don't need to even create odds on that one.
A man who got stuck in a bathtub.
He did. Now, shame on him for getting in that tub in the first place. Okay, I'm down a couple of pounds.
From getting into a bathtub.
No, but hold on a second. I'm down. Fluctuates a little bit, but at one point I was about 35, 40 pounds heavier,
Okay.
and I would know not to put myself in a situation like if I had to wedge between two cars, I wasn't doing it because I knew there was only one way out of that, which is somebody pulling me out or using like the jaws of life. So I feel like Taft deserves some responsibility, if not the majority of responsibility, for getting into a bathtub that he, knowing his own body himself, should have been prepared for. That's all I'm saying.
True.
All right.
Yeah, 100% agree.
All right. Is there a way, and let's think about this as we bring up this other point. The other big storyline, of course, is the closing of the XFL right down to bankruptcy. But is there a way that we could use McCaffrey in that picture at all? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Like
the fact that maybe he's mowing the lawn and all the Panthers are watching him.
Oh, that's a great one. With Trump leading the way. Like, could you put?
No, you can take Trump out of it.
All right, take Trump out of it.
But I'm saying maybe put Dave Gettleman. I'm not Dave Gettleman. Dave Tepper.
Yes.
In Trump's spot.
Well, hold on a second. What about Matt Rule in Trump's spot?
Maybe put Matt Rule. Put them both there. And then all the rest of the Panthers.
I love it. I love it. That's it.
Now,
Now,
and then McCaffrey's the one just going back on the wall.
Is there a way that we can leave Trump's body and put Rule's face? You know how they have that where you can do that with Joe Exotic, like make your own Abby? Is there a way we can do that?
Probably.
Turn Trump into Rule, and then I love it. Put Tepper and everybody else behind him, and they're all sitting. How about that? They're all standing behind him with their arms crossed.
I think I have on tape. Yeah, just now you said Trump is the rule.
Trump is the rule. Did I? Is that a drop now? Jeez. You know how much trouble you're going to get me in? Here's the thing, though. I like it, and I would put them all behind Rule and Tepper with just like leisurely standing, you know, like leaning on one side, arms crossed. Maybe one guy's leaning on another guy's shoulder pads, right? Just the total, like, man, we ain't doing anything today. Sorry, Christian's got it. You go, man. You got it. At Shander Show, twitch.tv/Shander Show. You guys have
holding up a glass of iced tea or lemonade.
perfect. Absolutely. Maybe one guy's even sitting down in a chair. You know, exactly right. Yeah, you have that thing that, you know, to maximize the sun.
The zinc on the nose.
Yep.
The white zinc
The-
was popular in the 80s.
The white zinc on the nose. And what's that mirror-like thing that,
I don't know.
you know,
I don't
from
what you're talking about, though, that frying dish.
what's the first movie you think of when you hear of that or see that? There's only one for me. The first movie.
I mean, maybe dating myself, but the first image I have of that is MASH.
No.
Not the movie, the TV show.
No.
Good. I don't know. You go ahead. You tell me yours.
The woman who lives with why can't I remember her name? The star of There's Something About Mary. That one,
Cameron
yes,
Diaz.
Cameron Diaz. Her roommate. Remember, she's like constantly sunning herself and her.
Oh, you mean wasn't that like her aunt or something?
I thought it was her roommate. Maybe it was her aunt. I don't know, but that's what I think of. That
No,
woman.
the one that was like all leather.
Yes, because of too much sun.
Thanks for bringing up that nightmare.
It's the only thing I would ever connect, or maybe the first thing I ever connect with that apparatus you would put around your throat and maximize it.
You think of that old leather?
I do. Well, that's the connotation I have is old and leathery whenever I see that thing. I see I've been warped. My mind has been warped by that movie. All right. The XFL is done. We knew that already. The XFL, Vince McMahon said no more, despite hopes that it would come back. Look, even I didn't believe that this was it. I just figured, okay, the current climate, what we're dealing with right now, the pandemic, I understand that everything needs to take a pause and some things even need to cancel right now with the hopes of coming back. But when we get to the level of filing Chapter 11, bankruptcy, leaving a couple of creditors out there, including, of course, Bob Stoops, who's owed over $1 million, a couple of other coaches in the $500,000 range, you look really bad. You do. You look awful. And if you combine it with the big business, if you combine it with the moneymaker, and I actually have some firsthand experience with this from a stock standpoint, but you yourself as Vince McMahon create the optics that you're one of these degenerates. You know, you're not paying up on support. You're not paying up. One of these awful landlords not doing anything to fix a slum building that you've created yourself. And McMahon is going to back out, and McMahon is going to be fine. He's losing money, and we'll get to why in a second, as Tony and Ron had Ben Kercheval on. Great CBS college football mind, also did a ton with the XFL this year. But before you even hear that clip, nothing is going to change long-term big picture with Vince McMahon, because at some point sports will return to its normalcy. Even faster, I think, for maybe McMahon and Dana White. We'll get to that as far as essential personnel after you hear Ben Kercheval. And the reason why Kercheval is relevant and we're playing this cut is it might not be as simple as you've made it out in your head. You might have gone through conspiracies. You might have layered upon layered the reasoning why Vince McMahon had to end the XFL, pull the plug, and then declare bankruptcy. But as Ben said earlier on the morning show, this is the morning wake-up, pardon me. This is the reason, the specific as to why McMahon said, I not only need to cancel this thing, but declare bankruptcy.
Now, and remember, Vince McMahon sold off like a ton of stock a year ago to just fund this operation. And then so from WWE. So there's that.
and then so there's funding, and then there's trying to fund this thing in the middle of a global pandemic. And WWE's taken a massive hit over the course of this year. And Vince was financing this operation, and then the money and the cash flow either isn't there, or the funds in the bank go down because of other economic factors. Suddenly, the operation isn't as viable. I mean, when this thing, when they canceled the season a month ago, they were still playing to keep everyone on payroll.
And then up until Sunday, everybody was. People were paid out through April 12th.
A lot of people in our building, on our network, or more importantly, through our sister station, because we were the voice of the Houston Roughnecks.
Yep.
A lot of those guys had jobs with the Houston Roughnecks, either doing social media or, John Granado was the voice of the Houston Roughnecks, so he was doing play-by-play calls for the Roughnecks. They were all still receiving checks, and I think they might still be getting them this week. I don't know what happens beyond.
Yeah,
this week.
I saw through April 12th, but if they're getting anything extra, then even better.
I mean, through April 12th, so maybe they'll get one.
Right.
And that's it.
Absolutely. And hopefully there's something there.
That's still impressive.
That they're getting paid out this much?
Yeah, I mean, I get it if it's the NBA and maybe even baseball, NFL, they're all paying their people. That makes all the sense in the world, even though they've had no games going on.
Yeah, but
I'm real surprised with the XFL because it is a startup.
it's a startup, but I don't feel like it's a typical startup that even would have an angel investor or somebody, a silent partner like a McMahon level. This thing was owned and operated, especially from an economic standpoint. Ben even said it, right? Like he sold a bunch of stocks in order to fund the creation of this. Am I to believe that coaches' salaries and things along those lines, it wasn't already allocated from the start? The bottom line is, I look, this is my interpretation of the bottom line. Vince McMahon made a calculated decision to continue going through with WWE events without fans, without the same impact that it has. It was a major mistake because they wound up losing more money than they would have if they just stopped and canceled. And that trickled down to not only canceling the XFL and really ruining any shot of another league coming back anytime soon, but also a step further, declaring bankruptcy, filing for Chapter 11, looking like a deadbeat, that you make so much money. We know you're going to be back as soon as sports return, and you can't float checks. You can't float a check to Winston Moss. You can't float a check to Bob Stoops. It looks horrible. And I think, look, I get that we don't like, and at least I don't like to mandate how billionaires spend their money. Oh, come on, buy this. But this is a business. This is a contract. This is something that he brought on. And I think when you look at this 4, 5, 6 months from now, the damage will be done clearly to the XFL people and the people who believed in this. But on the flip side, Vince McMahon is going to come back and probably make back some of that money that he's lost with the WWE. Just take a little bit. I will wrap the hour next here at Shander Show, twitch.tv/Shander Show. It's the second level. All right.
Scotty Terrell, starting April 14th, I'm back weeknights with Sports Grid from 4 to 6 Eastern. It's Terrell coast to coast. My degenerate gambling buddy Gabe Morency comes off the bench at 6. We have a game time decision. And then as soon as that hiatus is over, I'm back in your face, man. Right in your face. For another hour at 7 Eastern with In-Game Live. Terrell on Sports Grid. And I'm back on SB Nation Radio, baby.
Wake up call. Remember that has been paying out $2 million every year for the past 17 years on insurance for a pandemic. And so they've paid $34 million into this insurance. They're going to collect over $100 million from the insurance policy.
Yeah, how much easier was it for them to cancel the tournament once you learned that?
Shame on me, because I thought it was grass. I thought it was grass. Yeah, like you got to dry out grass in August or the fall. You can't hold Wimbledon on its grass court. Little did I know that this was an easy decision to cancel this bad boy and collect themselves $100+ million. Oh, we won't be having Wimbledon this year. All in favor say aye. Great. The ayes have it. Anybody want to process that claim?
Wake up call with Tony D and Ron Colbert. Weekday mornings. SB Nation tonight with John Michaels.
We don't know that 16 days from now things might not be trending in a good direction. I'm going to continue to take the glass half full approach. I'm continuing to plan as if college football and pro football is going to happen in the fall, and that we're going to have the NBA by June at some point. I'm thinking by June we're going to have NBA back and baseball will be up and running. We may be playing in front of empty gyms for a while. So be it.
SB Nation tonight, weeknights at 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. SB Nation tonight with John.
What's up, Mike?
What event do you think you have any chance of actually getting done? I'm trying to think. I would probably have to learn how to do one of those shooting events. I was never going to be able to do the javelin. I never could have done the shot put. I'm scared of heights, so I damn sure wasn't going to try to do the pole vault and jump over something 20 feet in the air. I don't know that there was anything I could have done. Like the swimming? No. I damn sure wasn't diving unless we could have done a cannonball off the top of the platform. I'm not diving into the water and flipping around like a maniac. You know what? Maybe if I trained for like a year, I might have a shot to play some ping pong against somebody. Although, actually, no. Those dudes are like 40 feet off the table and they're... And that thing's like... The ball's just flying everywhere. I can never do that either. So I don't think there's anything I can do in the Olympics.
SB Nation tonight, weeknights at 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. You're listening to the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, with way more than the stores. Here's Eitan Shander.
Now, should I know this song? How famous is this song?
I don't think it's that famous at all.
Oh, I've never heard this before in my life. And before I admit that, I'm sorry? Well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I have to be honest. There's a lot of stuff that I have never heard before until I work with you, and I like.
This is just a 30-second commercial put twice.
Where is Eastern Motors?
Outside DC.
Jeez. So you just...
It's one of the greatest spots ever. YouTube it. It's so funny.
Well, that actually opens up a very interesting conversation, right? What are some... And they have to be local, right? Pace, that salsa commercial doesn't count. They have to be local. Is there a more... There has to be, like, what's the most famous viral local commercial? That's something that we'd have to research. Now, we have a couple of minutes before the second hour starts. We're a busy one, too.
I don't think we're going to research it within this first hour.
No, well, not right now. You don't think in the next hour between the two of us? Yeah, I mean, we've got two guests coming on, so once they're both long-winded, so I'm sure I can sneak in a research thing, right? All right, Robert Littal, fake news, John McMullen, all coming your way next here on our second hour on the second level, twitch.tv/Shander Show as well. All right, nice, man.
I used to play that with Travis Rogers, and he got it from Steve Zabin.
Okay.
Steve Zabin, because when he lived in DC,
Sure.
was doing the show.
Sure.
This spot, it's for Eastern Motors, which is where you can go buy a car. Basically,
Yeah.
That's why, you can go buy Chevy,
Right.
Ford, Buick,
Oh, my
whatever.
goodness.
But it features all like the prominent stars in the NFL and NBA in Washington during that time.
Got it. Okay.
And so they're all singing, like they're all lip syncing the words, but they're in these cars. And it's like it's a parade of cars.
Oh, my goodness.
It's classic.
That is hilarious. How old is it?
LeVar Arrington.
I was going to say, yeah, okay.
It's back then. But Travis always liked the sound of it, so he's like, "Hey, we can use that?" So I was like, "Yeah, it's 30 seconds. I'll just put it twice, and we're good to go." And from then on out, everyone just always has the same questions, like, "What is
Yeah,
that?" I mean, It has a cool hook. It's
Right,
a cool sound.
right. And it's just 30 seconds just replay.
Yeah, just 30 seconds replay.
Oh my goodness. That is great.
Be centrally regulated. But you can YouTube that spot. You can, just put Eastern Motors, and it'll probably be the first thing that pops up. On your keyboard, it stinks. You're gonna be away from
All right, I'm trying to find. I will do that actually because I wonder if that's on this list here. Rhett and Link's greatest hits, their top 10 most viral local commercials. This came out 8 years ago though, so.
Weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
If business, pleasure, or sports fandom takes you to Houston, Dallas, Austin, Fort Worth, or San Antonio, check out CultureMap.com to get the scoop on the local favorites. From the best restaurants, bars, pubs, and clubs to the biggest sights and sounds and shows.
Oh, all right. This is a group that does commercials.
The expert team personally reviews and visits each spot to make sure you get the best.
All right, actually, give me 1 sec. I'll be right back.
Sign up for free Culture Map updates at CultureMap.com.
Enough to swim and go, you can go back to work, you can go to sports arenas, and then we go, absolutely, thanks. Good, Fosse. Is it him? Because he's like, we may never be able to shake hands ever again. Why was your Dr. Fosse was one step away from Gilbert Gottfried? I know, right? On the one hand, I want to know what the other hand is doing. And my Dr. Fauci impression is more like, well, it's more like, if you have two people in a room, it's better if one of them leaves. So in the future, let's say you're taking your family to a restaurant and there's 4 of you. It's better to just get 4 tables. And please limit the visitation to maybe once every 2 weeks. That would be the best. To keep this completely under control. Wake up call with Tony D and Ron Colbert. Weekday mornings. Tom Phillips, Earl Campbell, Dan Pastorini, the loving Blue Era Houston Oilers. Experience 1970s football with red, white, and Columbia blue. For the audiobook at Houston79.com. A game-by-game recap of the 1979 Houston Oilers season. Featuring player interviews and new insights. Step into the huddle for legendary games against the Steelers and Cowboys. And relive one of the most controversial plays ever. The Mike Winfield play. Red, white, and Columbia blue. Download now at Houston79.com. SB Nation tonight with John Michaels. Let's not fool ourselves. 17 games is coming, period. The NFL realizes right now, if we go to 17 games, you know what that is? More money. You're going to get basically 2 more weeks of programming out of all of this. The extra game and the extra bye week. The NFL can milk that for more money out of the television network. For the television networks, it's simple. For all the BS talk of fans who are out there that said, look, we're going to boycott the game for whatever. Whether it was players off the field activities, whether it was kneeling for the flag, whether it was the game changing in the way they're taking away some of the hard hits. People said they weren't going to participate, not going to watch. Like 9 of the top 10 programs throughout the year are NFL games. So say whatever you want, people are consuming the National Football League. And if the NFL looks at this and says, I can make more money by having more games, they're going to have more games. SB Nation tonight, weeknights at 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. Wake up call! I mentioned the draft is going to be a virtual event. We kind of know that. Everybody's going to be in fun locations and everybody on computers and whatnot. But how many of us will be watching this just to see if it falls apart? Since the aspect of the draft where the teams didn't pick it and what teams did what, who moved up in the draft to get everything.
All right, I'm here.
All that we normally do. But how many of us are watching for the Joe Burrow feed to just collapse at the right time? Wake up call with Tony D.
I don't know if this is a popular one nationwide, but I think it's definitely a fan. I don't know. I'm a fan favorite, or I'm a fan of these local spots here in Houston.
Okay.
For Scott McGrath Pest Control, which is just a local bug killing company, but all of them sound the same, and they just sound like some Cajun guy just reading something.
Oh my goodness.
Who's a terrible actor, but each one I have one for you that we normally play on our local side. It's hysterical.
Okay. I love it. Do you have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a minute long. We can get options. We're not sure where we can fit that in, but
Do we have time to do it in this first segment?
we'll even bring it
If I threw to it really fast?
possibly,
Okay.
yeah, if we go to it quickly.
Okay.
There's over $35. Visit O'ReillyAuto.com. Auto Parts.
I just want to tweet out too, so maybe we'll see if anybody responds to that one.
Second level thinking is defined as looking beyond the easy, obvious conclusions. You gotta do some smart thinking. Welcome to the second level.
I mean, it's queued up for you. Ready?
Okay, yeah, I'll go with that because it's a minute, right?
Radio.com.
Yes.
Okay.
And the Buck School, presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage is with you every step of the way. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's your host, Eitan Shander.
Last we left you, Ron Culver said, there's no way we're going to find anything of value in this hour. We're going to have to research stuff. Luckily, we have two guests on. So look at you. It took you 3 minutes. It took you 3 minutes to find something. Now it's in your wheelhouse. It's local to Houston.
It's like, I don't know if it's popular nationally, but I think this might be something that you're talking about.
Okay, so let's listen to what might be, and it's out on Twitter at Shander Show. We're looking for the best local commercial of all time. Let's see if, in fact, this holds up.
I'm Scott McGrath. I never quite understood not jokes. Where I come from, we keep the door open and unlocked. Someone wants to come over, they just come on in. It does not always work out for folks, though. I had just gotten my first home, and I was sitting on the sofa eating Jiffy Pop popcorn and watching the Cosby Show reruns, and I looked up, and a 6.5-foot tall cockroach come walking into my house on his hind legs. For a moment, I wondered what was in that popcorn I had been eating, and then this thing took over, and I reached in the cushion of the sofa and pulled out a sawed-off Double Barrel 10 and blew that cockroach in no Hades. But shame on me. It turns out that it was Halloween. I had just killed the godson of Mr. Fletcher Gafford from down on the road. In my defense, it was a really realistic costume. I feel bad for the accident and homicide, but I did get a bit of a rush watching that cockroach explode. Let me kill folks for you. Call McGrath Pest Control at 281-469-8340. I'm Scott McGrath, and I approve this message. Knock, knock. Who's there? Cockroach. Burn.
Wow. I don't know what to say. I mean, making light of blowing some kid's back out. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, if you're trying to send the message that you kill him dead. But wow. Okay, so as you know, a bunch of things go through my mind here.
But they have a whole bunch just like this. That's how they all sound similar to that.
But that's like somebody down there that's self-deprecation, right? That's somebody down there making fun of how somebody who's like, exactly, like somebody who would really be that. I don't want people in Philadelphia to think, oh man, that's how Houston people are. No. That's how Murfreesboro people are in Tennessee. I kid. Speaking of Bonnaroo, Robert Littell is not going to talk about that. Other stuff coming up next.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO.
Crazy Eddie commercials. Now, were those national?
No, those are local.
All right, so the Crazy Eddie might work.
Yeah.
Wow, what about this? Somebody tweeted me a picture of Jones Barbecue and Foot Massage.
If you think that,
What?
isn't that from Saturday Night Live?
Is it?
I feel like
There's a real number on this. 708-224-6191.
Maybe not. Hey, a little bit of breaking news. Hank Steinbrenner dies.
Is that right?
Yeah, 63. Yankees co-owner dies
Wow.
in Florida after a long illness.
Okay. Thank you. Long illness.
It's hurting my eye.
100 square foot bedroom.
My neck isn't so much stiff as it's completely stuck.
With Liberty Mutual, get customized home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
It's amazing.
I'm seeing
This is
cockroaches.
Google, where you Google Hank Steinbrenner, right? Top stories come up. 3 of them are post Fox News SNY, right? You know, he's dead, passed away. And then Hank Steinbrenner on Twitter. The first one is Bob Nightingale. The second one is the New York Yankees. The third is at Mike Emanuel Fox. Here is the President Obama endorsement video of his former VP Joe Biden. What?
And to say their business was booming would be an understatement. Then came the pandemic. Hospitals and first responders were desperate for hand sanitizers. Without giving it a second thought, Surf City converted a massive still from creating craft bourbon to creating hundreds of gallons of FDA-approved hand sanitizer.
for first responders, hospitals, and others. If you live in California and you love craft bourbon, vodka, gin, or rum, and you want to support a great American company, visit SurfCityStillworks.com and enter radio for 20% off of any home delivery of their spirits. You can also donate. That's promo code radio for 20% off at SurfCityStillworks.com. Cheers.
Oh man, somebody sent me a GIF of it too. I think this is real, Ron.
Can you own a timeshare in just 1 hour? Thousands of timeshare owners are getting out of their timeshare contracts. With the help of Timeshare Compliance, Timeshare Compliance can legally terminate, tear up, shred, eliminate, trash your timeshare agreement, and in your agreements forever, saving you thousands. So whether you're a victim of a high-pressure dishonest sales agent, or you were misled with what you were buying, or you overpaid and they underdelivered, call Timeshare Compliance now for a free consultation. With one simple call, the trusted professionals at Timeshare Compliance can legally rip off your timeshare agreement and help rip off your financial suffering. You could save thousands. Call now before another.
Well, this is actually a real commercial.
Compliance is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Call 800-718-2963. Say that again?
It's Jones Good Ass Barbecue and Foot Massage.
Okay.
This looks like a real commercial. No, it can't be.
Robert is ready.
All right.
It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Shander.
So last week, reached out to Robert Littal, and you can follow Robert if you're not already at BSO Black Sports Online. You can watch him now. Big things for this man here. First, he creates his own empire, and then TMZ Sports picks him up on FS1, so you can watch TMZ Sports, co-hosted by Robert as well. And I had a bunch of things wanted to talk about, of course, what was going to happen on Sunday night, the horse event, and some other things in sports and entertainment. But as we head out to the Progressive line, we will talk, and after coming up in a couple of minutes, there was some breaking news that came down with the passing of Hank Steinbrenner. But to bring on Robert, unfortunately, and it's just more of a reminder to some or a reinforcement to a lot of people that we're not where we need to be by any means in our society. We have a terrible, horrific, awful happening here in NASCAR, one that opened up a lot of questions and response, rightfully so, discussions, and that's what happened with Kyle Larson, now suspended for using a slur during an iRacing event. The reaction, of course, got a lot of reaction from us. So we bring on Robert, again, at BSO on Twitter. What's happening, man? First and foremost, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing well. Me and my family are doing well. Just wishing the best for others. And congratulations to you on the new show. That's well deserved.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that, man. As you know, being able to chat with you and watching you grow BSO and turn into now a media mogul has been an awesome sight to watch. So I'm happy, proud, and thrilled for you and your success as well. And look, I'm happy that you're staying inside. I'm watching your videos. You're on Twitter, you're doing the scope and everything. So you're pushing things out, and it's clear that you're staying home. Are you kind of surprised that there is still a lot of resistance and that there are a lot of people that are still going out and about despite what seems to be social media kind of picking up on it?
No, not at all. I mean, I think history shows that we can be a bit of an arrogant and dumb country at the same time. But always going to be some people that are going to push back. And then also when you have from the top guy in our country, he pushes back and does dumb and ignorant stuff all the time as well. But there's always going to be a portion of the society that's going to be like, so I'm not going to follow the rules. This is America. I only do what I want to do, regardless of putting people at risk and stuff like that. So one would hope as the numbers, come in and you see the people that, pass away, the people that are sick, and the businesses and everybody that's struggling, I think we're finally starting to get to the point where people realize, hey, this is serious.
it, and you know, you can't play around with it. You can't be the type of person that says, hey, well, you know, I can recover, it won't happen to me. I think people are finally realizing that doesn't matter if you end up affecting someone else that can't handle it. So I think we're getting there. We're not quite there, but I think finally we're starting to turn the corner on it.
What's LA like? Because we see it on TV, like we see New York on TV, like I see 15 miles south of me, Philadelphia on TV. We're told Boston is going to be hit soon. What is it like? You're out in LA. What's the city like?
It's interesting because, you know, we're not like on lockdown, you know, it's not like the purge, so you can still go outside and things like that, but it's still kind of minutes to society. Everyone has their mask on, you know, everyone is just kind of going out when they need to get things, and I will say probably the last couple of weeks or so, I think people are being very respectful of the social distancing. A lot of those people riding their bikes, and like jogging, going on, and things like that, and, you know, I think it's just a big state, and it took a while, but I think now we're starting. It's odd because it's California. Normally, there's so much traffic. Everybody is out, you know, because the weather's nice. Everybody's doing stuff. Everybody's going to work. Everybody's at the beach and stuff. So it's weird. It feels more like a small town, you know, now. You know, coming from St. Louis, you know, it feels like, you know, where you don't see a lot of people after 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And that's what it feels. It feels like you went from a big city to some, you know, random city in Wisconsin.
I love it, man. Now everybody is brought together like that. That small world, that small town mentality. Let's look at the story that popped clearly over the last day or so, and it's. I brought it up at the end of my show, and I didn't spend a lot of time on it, knowing, of course, we would have a conversation today, and also because there are certain things where my opinion I'm going to share no matter what. I have the platform for it, but it's not my conversation. It's my fight, and I'm going to fight, and I'm going to back you up every single second of it. But people need to hear it from you more than they need to hear it from me. And I'll say the one of the biggest issue, of course, is what Kyle Larson said. End of story. That's the biggest issue. But one thing that was odd, and all right, let me start over. Not odd. One thing that stood out to me that was almost as bad as what Larson said was the response. Like, yo, we're public. Not like, how dare you say something like that?
Yeah, I think that's what I tried to point out to people yesterday. I wasn't surprised, you know, that he said it, and I wasn't honestly surprised at the reaction because when people say privately, I think sometimes it spills out publicly, and how people react to it lets you know that it's something that they do, you know, all the time. He kind of laid out there very casually, and obviously it feel like the first time that he said it, and obviously it feel like the first time that they heard it before, because their main thing was freaking out on the fact that people could actually, you know, hear it.
Right.
And really, like I said, that's what I try to point out to people, because that's really the eye-opening part, is that, you know, people are saying it, and the thing that gets me, that the point that I really can't understand, is that why do they want to say it? You know, so what is the motivation, you know, in saying that? I think that's a situation with certain aspects of my country, certain people that feel like no matter what is happening, they feel that they have the right to say, you know, things that are offensive because they just want to. They feel privileged in that sense to be able to say that, where others, most normal people will say, no, something, I'm not, you know, Asian, so I'm not going to say an Asian. I don't have any desire to say an Asian. I'm not Mexican. I don't have any desire to say Mexican. I'm a man. I'm not going to say certain things that many women would say to each other. No one else really, you know, feels like that urge to say something offensive of another race, another culture, another gender, except some people, you know, who are white. And that part I've never got, because there's no benefit to them saying it. And there's no, you know, there's no real reason, you know, for them, you know, to say it, except just to say, hey, I can do it. I have that power. I have that privilege. So I'm going to, you know, do and say whatever I want.
Yeah, that's not a universal card, by the way. Just because somebody that looks a little different than you might allow you to say that doesn't mean that everybody who looks a little different than you is going to allow you to say that. So there is no, you know what I'm saying? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what happens is, I think they do it in spite of, just, it's a power thing. You know, I'm not going to let you have anything. You know, I'm not gonna let you do anything. But if you say the rap songs, you say with your fans and stuff, then I want to say it too because I feel like I am the superior, you know, race. I'm the popular one that can say whatever I want to say. There's nothing that you can do about it.
Right.
And I think that's how Paul Lawson probably thinking that I can say that to do what I want. I'm a famous NASCAR racer. These are my buddies. These are my boys. We can do it. And now he's doing the notification of that.
Robert Littal joining us at BSO, at Shander Show for me, live on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/Shander Show. I'm curious, we're not going to fix the world's problems, but we might be able to educate a couple of people, right? And I'm curious, in sports, I'm saying in sports, not in general, but even in an 8 or 9 minute conversation. But I am curious because I think your answer here can provide insight to a lot of people who either didn't think this was a big deal or thought the suspension was enough. Let's say I'm NASCAR. I'm the governing body of NASCAR, the person in charge. I'm coming to you, Robert Littal, Black Sports on Live, TMC Sports on FS1. Help me do the right thing to not only send the message to Larson and other drivers, but to fans and what could be other fans that we're not okay with this. What do we do?
I think they're in a tough situation because of the stereotypes.
Right.
About that, all of this year was just kind of reinforced those stereotypes. I think because, you know, out of his sponsors, I mean, McDonald's can't happen as a sponsor. After he said something like that, I think eventually what he's going to be, if he's going to be the sacrificial lamb, you know, they're going to get him out of there. Now, the problem is with that, and what I always say the problem is that if you can get rid of Paul Lawson, that doesn't get rid of the problem. All that does is, what I think sometimes, is just make people be, you know, careful about the things that they say publicly. Doesn't change their beliefs, you know, privately, which is really the only way you can kind of get to the crux. What the problem is. I think last time, you know, he's trying to, you know, be more diverse and reach out to different fans because they want to use that stereotype, that reputation. They're going to have to keep doing that. But over the last couple of years, which is not surprising, coincide, you know, when Trump has gotten the office, it feels like they've reverted back onto those stereotypes. And who knows? I was talking to someone about this the other day. Maybe, you know, if things change, you know, in 2020, and say that Biden, you know, was the presidency, maybe some of these leagues and owners and organizations that feel kind of obligated because they don't want to upset Trump, we kind of loosen things up and we kind of get back to trying to be more diverse and trying to be more of a country that can kind of, you know, support equality and not these other types of things.
Robert, I do want to get your thoughts on something else, something a little lighter as we wind down here. Horse. Should it be done again or forgotten like the Men in Black thing where we never remember it for the history, remember it for the, you know, the rest of our lives?
You know, they're trying. So I give them credit for trying. There's nothing else that, you know, so I mean, they're trying to, you know, get some sort of new, you know, program, things, new advertising, but it was awful. You know, that type of stuff I think only works. You know, you gotta have LeBron. You know,
right.
You gotta have Russell Westbrook. You gotta have James Harden. You gotta have, not that they didn't have, you know, big names, but, you know, Devin Booker or whatever, you know, Pierce is not gonna get it, you know, done, you know, for the match. You know, if you're gonna do the NBA 2K, you know, you gotta have Gus Johnson or something doing an announcement. You can't just have these guys actually in real life are pretty boring. You know, so you can't put them on TV. So I have ideas if they wanna, you know, hit me up. I can kind of spruce things up a bit. I think some of the higher ups are a little out of touch with what, you know, people kind of like these days. They're just so used to putting on just regular sports. So they're going to hit me up. I can definitely give them some better ideas.
Love it, man. Thank you so much for the time, the kind words, and always appreciate the conversation, Rob. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Great job and good luck. And I hope everything is good with yours. And we'll get through this and we'll be, you know, back talking about sports before you know it.
Great words, man. We'll end on that. Thank you, sir. Robert Littal at BSO on the Progressive Guest Line. So something that popped up before we began, we'll recap you on some breaking news and also fake news. This isn't fake. It's real. But Ron's got some fake stuff next. Second level. I'm so used to saying SB Nation Radio, SB Nation Radio.
It's all right. I mean, we're still technically SB Nation Radio, so if you let it fly, don't feel bad about it.
Okay.
As a society, we move quite rapidly, but now we're forced to sort of reevaluate the important things in life, and I think it's good in that regard.
Okay. 1 second.
That has nothing to do with what your bank account looks like. If you have your health, then you are a very wealthy person. Now it's important that we understand that you want to be able to keep social distancing so that everybody can stay healthy. And the more we can practice that, every day that we can practice that, every day we can buy a day for the scientists to be able to come up with a cure or a vaccine, is a day closer to having this craziness end. And life will never be the same.
Pushing the odds with Matt Peralt, weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
All right, listen up, pay attention. Hey, what's up, SB Nation? It's your boy, Scotty Farrell. It's starting April 14th, I'm back weeknights with Sports Grid from 4 to 6 Eastern. It's Farrell coast to coast. My degenerate gambling buddy, Gabe Morency, comes off the bench at 6 p.m. with game time decision. And then as soon as that hiatus is over, I'm back in your face, man. For another hour at 7 Eastern with in-game live. It's well on Sports Grid. And I'm back on SB Nation Radio, baby.
Wake up, call! You know what? I think Tiger King is probably going through the thing. That'll be we're in a great quarantine. So let me tell you the story. There's a guy and his tigers, and another guy and his sex cult, and a woman that fed her husband with wives. I think it's just going to be.
Do you think Oklahoma, in some way, some fashion, or maybe the country as a whole, we should have a Joe Exotic statue? A place, a beacon of hope, a beacon of light that we can all travel to once the quarantine is over. So mass gatherings. So generations from now, we can sit there and say, guys, this man right here is what got us through. I think it's a great idea. That's a good idea. Joe Exotic statue. What's the great news in the 2020 quarantine?
Wake up call with Tony D and Crossover. Weekday mornings.
Headed to Texas to watch the team play, but don't know where to go for that pregame drink? Visit CordialMap.com for all of the hottest spots in Houston,
All right.
Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, and San Antonio. From the most popular bars to those favorite dining dens, CordialMap has it all. Then before you leave town, why not visit some of the best places to shop or see some of the sites? CordialMap has extensive coverage on all the things to do in the city you're in. So check out CordialMap.com. That's CordialMap.com.
All right, so dive right into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're listening to the second level. Buttons aren't working today.
Sorry, I thought you were just letting the music ride. No problem with that.
From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, we're playing more than the scores. Here's Eitan Shander.
So we did this yesterday, opened up the show. We'll do it each and every time at this hour, this minute, this segment here. Fake news. Ron's got 4 stories. One of them is fake, and it's my job to sniff it out and identify it. And I did not do it yesterday. To be fair, nobody on Twitch did it either. So you fooled everyone.
Because I have to make it a personal mission of mine.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to try to make it harder and harder each day.
Okay. Good.
Why not, right?
Yeah, ideally, the segment would work best if I lose every time.
Yeah.
Because then there's added ammunition of being able to make fun of me.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went out there, I tried to grab the most craziest stories possible.
Okay, good. So let's start wherever you want.
Right. Coors Light delivered 150 beers to a 93-year-old woman who pleaded for more beer during lockdown in a viral photo.
Okay, 93 years old. She doesn't have anybody in her family that can get her a can of beer here, a 6-pack.
Not only that, 93 years old and still living on her own.
And on top of that, okay, what makes it the worst, like the ending is not a happy ending, in my opinion. Here is a woman, 93 years old, on her own, doesn't have family around her that can just drop off a 6-pack from your local takeout spot.
Yep.
And then after all of this begging and pleading, and you said what, that there was this, how was she doing this? How did she go viral?
Well, basically, this is what happened. Her daughter came over, and they were, practicing the social distancing. So she's behind a window or a door, and they're just having a conversation. It looked like it might have been a writing pad, and maybe the daughter said, "You need anything?" And she held up a sign, "I need more beer." And so daughter took that photo, and it ran like wildfire.
And the worst possible ending is that of all things, you got Coors Light.
Well, she's holding a Coors Light can.
Oh, well,
That's her beer of choice. Hey,
jeez.
no.
I'm gonna beer shame her.
You're knocking it, but she's 93.
So what? She doesn't know any better? No, it's the opposite. She's been on the planet long enough to know better.
Well, that or is that the elixir of life? I don't know.
You know, if Coors Light is the elixir of life, then I will get on here and say I stand corrected. But I'm going to need a little more data than just one. It's like the woman or man who lives to like 102. What's your secret? Well, I drank beer and smoked cigarettes for 40 years. All right, well, that's what I need to do. I don't know yet, Ron. All right, I don't know.
Hey, there's one that, all the ones that always say they have at least one beer a day, if not four.
Right.
They're right. They're doing something right.
Exactly. All right. So 93-year-old gets her Coors Light. That's one.
Gets her Coors Light. A drug-addicted woman from Alabama has been found guilty of taking advantage of a mentally challenged man for a little over 3 decades.
My goodness. How so? Like, do you know any specifics of the taking advantage of? Like, hey, write a check, or something sexual, or?
I mean, there was none of it. I don't think it was really sexual.
Okay.
I think most of it was all financial.
Okay.
So I don't know if it was to feed her problem, to feed her ego. Not really sure.
Okay. Wow, that is a terrible story.
A little over 3 decades.
3 decades, and then do you even know how she was found, or did the guy escape, or?
No, I don't think I don't know if it was like a wellness visit or a friend of a friend type thing. It's good Samaritans out there. A lot of people are thinking that whatever's happening in our country right now, that the rapture is coming.
Right.
So maybe they're trying to get in some final good deeds and in that last minute plea.
Yeah. So this is the individual equivalent. I think you're onto something. This is the individual equivalent of what the skyline looks like, right, in LA or China. Now that everybody's inside, it's like, oh my goodness, now you're going to see what life would be like if everybody stood at home and didn't do anything. And this is like the micro version of it. Some awful human being decides, well, let me just do one good thing before I check out. Oh, all right. What's next?
Next up, a fashion designer has made a handbag that is made out of alligator tongue. The basket part of the handbag is alligator tongue. And the handle is made from a child's spine.
What? A child? This is worse than that commercial blowing out some kid's back. A child's spine?
A child's spine.
Now, how could anybody wear this and expect to be taken seriously in life?
I'm just saying.
But I'm just saying. Like, I don't care what your status is. I hope to goodness this is one of the real ones, because we might even have to bump McMullen and talk about this for about 10 minutes. How in the world can anybody, I don't care what your social status is, I don't care how much money, you could be Bill Gates, you can be as rich as possible, okay? Tesla, you think Elon Musk is walking around with a wallet, made and fine down after alligator tongue in some kid's spine? That is terrible. I don't even want to know the specifics of what it takes to get a kid's spine on a handbag. My God. All right. So what's the last one here?
Finally, a doctor believes that Andy Reid,
here we go.
Chiefs head coach Andy
former
Reid,
Eagles coach.
Former Eagles coach Andy Reid might be one of the true heroes in the coronavirus pandemic.
I need a little more than that.
Well, his rationale behind it all is the fact that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Had San Francisco won the Super Bowl, they would have had a parade. Now, they were one of the first cities that where the coronavirus exploded. Had San Francisco held a parade, who knows how many people might have contracted the virus.
And this is a doctor? This is somebody? Is there an MD or a PhD?
I'll have to look that
I mean, I think that guy, right?
I'll give you credit for that.
Because I think the guy from Ancient Aliens is a PhD, right? I mean, you could be out there, you can get a.
I think this guy's
Oh my goodness, which makes it even worse. Oh, see, that's believable. I can see. We had a story that you could transmit this virus if you pass gas on somebody. Now, granted, you need to be naked, they need to be naked. That's how it works. But you could pass viral bacteria like that before this whole thing happened.
And you need to be. I mean, how's that even possible?
Well, it's if
I
you
find that one hard to
no,
believe.
actually, this is something that's real that you've been able to, or at the mercy and risk of having something transmit that way. Think of the easiest way to do it is if you sleep naked and your significant other sleeps naked. Now, all of a sudden, you have to worry about where that person was. That's why this whole thing about cheating during the pandemic, man, you have to be on some other stuff right there to take that type of risk. This is, you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty hard. Hey, you've been with me for 30 days. How the hell did you get it? Well, I snuck out one time. All right. So let's look at this here. The 93-year-old Coors Light woman, 3 decades of tormenting and torturing a man with mental deficiencies, the fashion statement with alligator tongue and a child's back, and a doctor saying Andy Reid saved even more damage from the COVID-19.
It's the hero. One of the heroes of COVID-19.
All right, I'm going to give you my guess. When we get back, before we hit John McMullen up, you're going to tell me if I'm right or wrong. I say the fake one is the alligator tongue and the child's back, just because it's a child's spine. Part of me thinks, you know what, I'm wrong, just because this is planet Earth in the year 2020. Ah, man, you got me.
CEO of Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage.
That's good.
So you want me to hold
Yes.
on phoning him?
Oh, no. You can phone him. What do you think? What's the easiest thing? Because I'll need you too, right? So maybe phone him now. Just tell him, hey, give us a minute. John's cool, so he can hang for a minute.
Okay. So we got to wrap something up real quick.
Yeah, that's fine. Although I do wonder, since we're gonna have John on, I wonder if this can be like a trans. You tell me how this you think would sound. If we came back, I ran over the headlines real quick. I say, okay, this is the one I chose. You come in, you explain why it's real or fake, right? What the real one is. I go to John and get his thoughts on that, or is that?
Which one? Get his thoughts on which one would be a fake.
Well,
story?
or just his reaction to what he just heard.
Sure.
Like us going through the headlines and me picking one and you saying whether or not it was the real one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Start off that way.
Okay. I didn't know if it would be overkill or if it would be like if we should have like some definitive stop and say, okay, let's go out to the progressive as a.
We might have to have this. This one seems to be floated. I know we want to keep it here.
We don't have enough time, right?
But this is the second time in a row now where we've spilled over to the next.
Well, no,
segment.
so here's the thing. I actually wanted. That's my fault. That's one thing I did want to do. Is
We wanted to spill over,
yes,
right?
but not. I didn't want it like yesterday where we had to start it at the 40. But I think, yeah, and I had Robert and I wanted to get out a little earlier, but I did want to throw the horse thing in there. So ideally, if I get out at like 22, 23, right, we come back.
Yeah, we can talk about it. But it's hard to keep in one complete segment though, because I'll find some weird, crazy ass stories.
Well, I know. So if we look at it that way, and we have this segment that we just did to talk about all the stories, at the end, I give you my guess. And then I guess my thought process was we'd start the next segment, come back, I'll rehash the headlines real quick, give you my guess. So it kind of holds over, or should we work on just making it one segment?
I would say I don't know if we should have if we do this segment, if we do the fake news, it might be best not to have a guest afterwards.
Got it. Okay.
That way you can roll right into it.
Okay.
But it's something like John McMullen though, he could probably have fun with that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So unless it's John, we won't do it. I mean, unless it's John, we won't carry it over. Is my point. Otherwise, we can just end it in one segment. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. From machining and motor parts to valves and vacuum pumps. When it
There's some
comes to
pretty good
solid work
commercials here.
problems, Granger's got my
That
back.
people sent us. I never saw this TNT one.
Stop by to see for yourself. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
TNT Amusements. You see that one?
No.
So yeah, they're on our mentions.
Scratching the beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by
John's ready.
the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. Here's Eitan Shander.
Couple of big things to talk about with our next guest in a minute. John McMullen's going to join us on the Progressive Guest Line at JF McMullen. You can follow him, covers all things NFL, Eagles Insider as well, Jacob Media, Sirius here on SB Nation Radio as well. To recap where we ended, we had the 4 stories. One of them is fake. Ron put them out there. I give you my guess. So the headlines are: the 93-year-old finally gets her Coors Light. 3 decades of a woman, one of the worst people on the planet, tormenting a man who was dealing with mental deficiencies. And this was in Alabama, correct?
Correct.
Fashion statement is the third one, where you can buy a handbag with an alligator tongue, and that's the basket of it. And what you're carrying is made of a child's spine, correct, a handle. And then the last one is a doctor saying we should thank Andy Reid and the Chiefs for winning the Super Bowl, because if the parade happened, a medical doctor, mind you, if the parade happened in San Francisco as a result of the Niners winning, well, it would have been even worse. Country would have fallen into bedlam. I told you that despite this planet not surprising me by the day, by the minute, I went with the alligator tongue child spine as the fake one.
That seems too far-fetched.
Yes. Now you're going to tell me it's probably real, isn't it?
Well, no, yeah.
It's real?
I might tell you that was real.
What's the fake one?
Well, yeah, I mean, is that thing together? We can let John guess?
Oh, yeah, John. Well, John didn't have the benefit of asking questions. Right, but let's just see. Here's the thing. John's smarter than me, so he doesn't need a lot of questions answered. He might just see, oh, you know what? It makes sense here. So I'm curious, John McMullen. You heard those 4 stories. You heard my guess of which is the fake of the 4. Do you have any suggestion or insight?
Well, I thought the second one was me until I heard Alabama.
Jeez.
I know the Chiefs one is true. That was in the Wall Street Journal. So,
See,
I'm going with Charles Spine.
See, Ron knows me well. I was going to say, John, Ron knows me well that he can pluck stories out of the Wall Street Journal, and I won't see him. So.
Yeah, that would definitely true. It was actually I think it was might have been a Sports Illustrated story too.
Wow. I do know.
It came from the Wall Street Journal.
I do know the first one is real because I've seen the story here, and I made fun of her for drinking Coors Light.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
she's a 93-year-old woman.
Right.
She had 150
Unbelievable.
150 Coors Light cans to polish.
Will she outlive the Coors Light, or will the Coors Light outlive her?
Oh, I think she's gonna bear
Okay. Okay. Now it has to. Okay, with those 2 now left, the 3 decades of torment and the child's spine. It has to be the child's spine, right, John?
Yeah, I would think. I can't think anybody's on board with the child spine, but who knows in this world?
Well, let's hear, Ron.
And the winner is the drug addicted woman.
No!
That's a fake story.
That's a fake story. Who is the designer?
The fashion designer, his name is Arnold Putra. This is why I think this might have been
Oh,
a
my
post
goodness.
or maybe a tweet. I'm not sure. It says the alligator tongue basket bag, handle made of an entire child's spine who had osteoporosis. Now here's his. Here's what he told Insider after responding to critics. It's part of a creative learning process that should involve opposition. Otherwise, it would just be a form of repeated validation. I'm not intending to sell out and will continue to realize my ideas that are frequently changing in terms of subject matter. And apparently buying bones is legal.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there is some end around on this being legal, because you know that legal doesn't always mean ethical.
Yeah.
The purse I see was a one-off sold for $5,000.
So you're looking at the purse, right?
John, this is terrible. It looks like somebody's carrying around a Velociraptor bag.
I do give him credit for being able to talk some you-know-what, because that explanation was pretty good. I'm going to fuck that out and use that at some point.
Hey, you know, if you happen to get a pick wrong in the draft, that you might as well use that one, right? Unbelievable. let's get your thoughts on something that you and I have had conversations on for a while now. And I mentioned this the last time we spoke, that you were one of the people to give me the heads up. Look, this thing is not going to last up in the clouds as long as you and others may think, Shander. And that's the WWE, the stock specifically. And thankfully, I was able to get out at the right time. But before we even look at the XFL, a league that you had your eye on this year, John, how bad is it, short term and long term, for both WWE and Vince McMahon?
I think it's bad for everybody. Short term, I don't think there's any question. This is wreaking havoc on the economy as a whole, not just sports. And you saw a startup. It's just, and that was what that bankruptcy was about. If anything, what that told you, in the fact that if you read the petition, is that the league was actually doing better than they expected. They had budgeted for about $115 million in losses for the first 3 seasons. And the ultimate goal of the XFL was in year 4, there was going to be a big TV contract there that would wipe out those losses. So the bankruptcy was about the current environment and the realization that that TV contract isn't going to be there because of what has happened to the economy. So at that point, why do you lose $115 million a year? It doesn't make sense. So that's why the decision is made from the XFL standpoint. From the WWE standpoint, I mean, they have that. They already have what, and one of the reasons, by the way, Akon, is Vince created XFL 2.0 is because of the TV contract he got.
Right.
From Fox and NBC Universal, which is basically $2 billion each. And they still have that, so they're fine. They can withstand this just like the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, Major League Sports, because they have that TV deal. As long as they keep providing TV content, and that's why they're doing what they're doing.
Well, but real quick, doesn't that make Vince McMahon look even worse, that he couldn't float a check to the people in the XFL that are owed money, even if it is somebody like Bob Stoops who's owed over $1 million?
Yeah, no question. From the personal standpoint, he looks terrible. And I don't know if he understands that, because anyone who's ever met him knows he's a little off the reservation. But the PR hits. But I mean, this is the reason people create businesses. So there's no personal liability. That's why you do it, essentially. That's why you create LLC. So if you do have significant assets, and a business doesn't go the way that you think it's going to go, you protect yourself. And that's what's happening here. And it's ugly. And certainly when you think about it from the people, the individual people who are owed money, it's horrible, especially when you have an owner that can afford it. But this is what's going to be going on throughout this country in many, many different industries that aren't on the front page of the paper, the front page of sports page. I mean, but that's how business is done in this country.
So who's more successful now in Florida moving forward, Vince McMahon or Dana White?
Well, the problem with Dana White is he's got to deal with corporate overlords who Vince doesn't. And that's the main difference. I mean, Dana was buying his own private island. In fact, I think they bought it. I think they closed that deal to run international fights. Like he was a pirate.
Yep.
He was going to create his own government to keep running UFC fights. And they were going to do it on an Indian reservation, Native American reservation, for all the sensitive people in California, which obviously is not beholden to the U.S. government. But he no longer owns that company. Zuffa and the Fertittas sold it, and now he's talking about Disney, and then they would shut it down. So that's the difference between Dana White and Vince McMahon. If it were up to Dana White specifically, the UFC would be running even more so. They would never stop. I mean, he was more hardcore about it than even Vince.
Yeah, it's amazing to see the plan fall apart locally and knowing that they're pushing for Fight Island and then seeing what's happened down with essential personnel has been deemed, at least, for wrestling and what's soon to be UFC in Florida. So it's like I said, if you put the odds for which state would be the first to say, don't worry, we're fine, come here and fight and do everything you need, it would have to be Florida, right? At like minus 1,000.
Or Texas or somewhere that is, it's right versus blue, let's be honest. It's a political animal, and everybody seems to be in this country, and there's an incredible dysfunction, and there's a lie. And there's red states versus blue states, and you're going to see this continuing, whether it's Major League Baseball, they're talking about ramping up and playing in either Florida or Arizona, and the NBA, Premier League, overseas, has started telling their players, get ready, late May. There's an article from the Daily Mail over there that says their players have been told to start ramping up. And then they talk about the NFL and their assumption that there's going to be a season in September. All these leagues want to run in some form because they're businesses. And people who don't understand that don't understand business, to be quite honest.
John McMullen joining us on the Progressive Guest Line at JF McMullen, NFL Insider, Jacob Media. All right, last one, and I promised we'd get at least one NFL question in here. It's not a simple answer, right? Christian McCaffrey, you have to pay him. If you're going to pay him, you have to max him out. Yet, you can't rely on him to win football games. Can you help define that enigma that is overpaying a running back like Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah, I don't know if you can't win in football games. I think you have to go about it a different way. Obviously, when you think about the NFL as a whole, I mean, the one guy that can win you football games and lose you football games is the quarterback. Everybody else, whether it's edge rusher, left tackle, a lockdown corner, any position the NFL values, and they certainly value those positions more than running back, they can't go out and win football games. Even the best edge rusher, if you want to double team him, if you want to take him out of the game, he's got to get help elsewhere. So I think people get caught up in this position argument a little bit too much. When there's a great player, get the great player, pay the great player, and then try to cobble things around him to win football games. So I think that's any position. Quarterback, obviously, is a little bit different. And that's what I think Christian McCaffrey is. Anytime we're based in Philadelphia, obviously, and people talk about the Eagles don't value the running back position, they never take a running back in the first round. They haven't done it in so long. They generally don't even consider it. Well, guess what? In 2017, they wanted Christian McCaffrey 14 overall. If he fell to that point, they would have taken him. Doug Peterson was on record telling us that. Howie Roseman has told us that. They would have taken him. That's what they thought that specific player was. So no matter the position, if you get a great player, deal with a great player. I mean, don't lose him because you're saying, in general, running back is not valued, which is correct 100%, but this guy's different.
Awesome, John. We'll chat again on Thursday. Thank you as always, man. At JF McMullen, Jacob Media, NFL Insider, and beyond. Thank you, sir. All right. So we had a couple of commercials that popped up in the timeline. I don't know if we'll find one better than what Ron played. We'll wrap the hour next here on the second level. See? Oh.
The most angry I've ever been at you was when
Do you have any other ones? If you don't, that's fine. I'm just curious if you saw any that you like.
I do have another one that I grew up with.
Okay. What about
Lucy Cattle.
Hold on.
I do because I might have to stretch this over to the next day.
That's fine. That's fine.
We're just getting on each other's nerves like 20-year-olds do, and you put your hands up, and I take a free shot at you.
I'm gonna send you one, okay? Because it's God damn it.
Like so sore for like 3 days afterwards, maybe like 4 times.
There's this one here where it's like borderline. It's like, you'll see. It's pretty borderline, but it's a Kia commercial. And they made this one guy into a soundbite. That's crazy! Oh, we also have Foreman Mills here. Jose put one in there down in Houston. You see that one? Is Jim Adler?
Yeah, Jim Adler, the Texas Hammer.
Oh my
That's really what it is. The entire thing is
It's the Texas Hammer.
The Texas Hammer, I will fight for you.
That's great.
SB Nation tonight with John Michaels.
Did you see the latest on Kevin Durant where he said he played with a bunch of athletes, but not a bunch of guys that can shoot or play? Dude, Russell Westbrook and James Harden were on your team. I get it, Kendrick Perkins wasn't a very skilled big man. Pablo Cephalosha was a great defensive guy, and that's it. Don't do this 6, 7, 8 years later when you're calling guys out. You sound like a candy ass when you do that. I thought it was soft as hell when he left, but to not be hypocritical, it is free agency. You are free to go play wherever the hell you want when you're a free agent. But why years later are you trashing guys that you used to play with? And whenever you're healthy again, you're now going to play again. Let's say if I'm Russell Westbrook and I'm James Harden and I go against Kevin Durant, I'm putting the Slim Reaper on his rear end. Tell him, shut the hell up. You were part of the reason we couldn't get the job done.
SB Nation tonight, weeknights at 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
Wake up, call. These guys, it does have to, like, if you have the Walking Dead zombies, not be World War Z. Yeah, I mean, the fast moving, superhuman. I'm not running a World War Z zombie. I'm the guy you bring because secretly you know I can't keep up with the rest of the group. Hey, I'm going to take Bob and Jim and Tony. You come with us too. And everybody knows why you're bringing me. When push comes to shove, I'm the meal.
Wake up call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings. You're listening to the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Pigeon Roads. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, with way more than the scores. Here's Eitan Shander.
The funny, I guess the best thing about this is that we actually had somebody here, local to me in Philadelphia. And he's a great Twitter follower, so I want to thank him specifically, NR_Garrett, put in the mentions the actual commercial that started this whole thing, the one that you came back with, Ron, an hour ago with that rejoin. Now, do you have any others that you would like to throw into the mix here? We probably should just pick this up tomorrow, right? Since the show is essentially over and we hand things over to Matt Peralt at the top of the next hour. I just feel like we don't even have time to even play a 30-second commercial. Well, okay, you know what we could do is we could go Houston versus Philly. Because I feel like you have enough local commercials down there. I have enough local up here.
The other thing is I have Southern California. Like I'm playing one right now. I probably should turn it up.
I was going to say, yeah, this is like the first thing on television. This is like right after the Honeymooners.
His name was Cal Worthington. He owned a dealership somewhere down in LA. And all the jingles go see Cal. And he always posed with animals.
Like Joe Exotic level animals, or?
Yes. Tigers, chimpanzees,
Unbelievable.
giraffes, zebras, camels.
See, I feel robbed here because I have a Philadelphia audience who's tuned in and inundated us with tweet after tweet of these local commercials.
You don't have like a Philly cheesesteak commercial that's gone viral?
No, because everybody knows you don't need to advertise for a Philadelphia cheesesteak here. You get one every block. There's a great Kia commercial we had here. There's a couple of others. I guess Cars for Kids isn't local, right? That's a national one.
Yeah, that's a national
Okay, all right.
because that's everywhere.
All right, well,
Because we all know that jingle.
we're back on Wednesday. Pushing the Odds comes up next. Thank you to Jacob Media for helping provide this program. All right, buddy. Thank you. Is that it?
No problem. Have a good one.
You too. You're done, right?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, enjoy. Thanks, Rob. Thanks. All right, so hey, real quick, Ron Culver at. Should I not use the Yahoo? The Ron Culver at Yahoo? Okay.
I mean, just keep what you're doing. I mean, if it's a pain in the ass to send them to both, it doesn't really matter to me. You can send them to both. I get it just the same. It's when I'm at work, the easier one, because I don't ever open up my Yahoo email.
Got it. Okay.
So if you're sending me a clip or something, it's easy for me to pull it from the Gal Media.
Got it. And you have an iPhone, right?
Yes.
So you can text me anytime during the show. Anything you want, even if it's something like you don't want to say in the air. Obviously, I don't care. We break the wall down anything. So if you need to tell me something, we can go on the air and talk through it.
I think my first instinct, just because I'm so used to doing it, will be to talk.
Perfect.
Talk in your ear real quick. Just you'll always be able to tell. It sounds like this.
What's that?
Like what I'm doing. It's like what I'm doing to you right now, just talking into one ear.
Right.
And I'll probably do that. I keep it short and sweet.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever you want.
If it's something wrong, I'll text you and then just tell you text message.
Got it. Okay. Awesome, brother. Thank you for everything. Talk to you tomorrow, man. You too. Bye. Thanks, guys.